At one point, Regency Square Mall was one of the most commercially successful malls in the entire United States. Looking at it here in 2023, though, you would never know that. A large portion of this mall is actually off limits to customers and you can't even access it. It is currently divided in half between this open section here and this Impact Church that takes up the middle section and divides it from what was an addition to the mall back in, I believe, the 80s, where they had added this side where the Sears store used to be that now sits completely vacant. This mall, again, has a lot of empty storefronts, like this abandoned restaurant that has clearly seen better days. And at one point, it had an international decor outlet. Well, I'm not really sure what that was, but they were really proud of it, advertising it everywhere. A vast majority of the stores sit completely shuttered and abandoned, leaving the only major retail store as a Dillard's clearance center, which can only be entered from the outside. Most of the stores like this JCPenney's went out of business as the mall started to decline during the 2020 pandemic. This mall was, again, one point, one of the most successful malls in the United States. There are now 3 other malls in this area, including St. John's Town Center, which took over as the area's most upscale mall. There's a couple other ones nearby that have helped push this one out of business, along with the clearly decaying state of the property. As you can see, there's damage and water damage to the ceiling, damage to the ceiling overall in a lot of the corridors, though it did at one point have a really neat looking playground with like a little train track that seems to go around different Florida themed buildings, and this really nice water fountain that's now completely dried up. Inside of one of the few stores that was open, they did not have air conditioning, so they had this kind of makeshift system that they had put together in place of the air conditioning. And going back out, you can see that a majority of the common areas were completely abandoned, including what used to be a Hot Topic, or at least I'm guessing based on that fence that at one point it was a Hot Topic and it may have become something else over the years. The mall maps that I was able to find online did not shed too much light to this. I did find this one from 2014. It doesn't show what each specific store was, but as you can see right there, there was a belt that you could travel through to get from one side of the mall to the other. I've only ever seen another mall like this in Georgia that was kind of interesting. That belt is now the Impact Church. And I also found this ad on their Facebook page from 2010 for some mall shopping. Kind of cool to see that this mall was once actually very popular and upscale. Again, walking out into the corridors, I was surprised to find just how much of it was in complete disrepair. It was actually crazy to me that, considering how many holes there were in the ceiling, the significant amount of leaking and damage in this mall, that this was even deemed safe for the public to enter. The majority of this seems like a building that really should be condemned and not allowing anyone inside of. The majority of these stores, I think, went out in 2020 during the pandemic. As you can see, there's whole sections of the even open portion that are closed to being able to go through with caution tape. There was obviously a Radio Shack there. That definitely is a blast from the past. I haven't seen a Radio Shack in forever. I don't remember exactly when Radio Shack went out of business, but they no longer exist in the United States. At least there's no physical retail stores. They may have an online presence if I'm not aware of it, though. And just looking around this mall, it was pretty deserted. There were people here and there. For obvious reasons, this mall is not doing very well. There's hardly any stores in it, hardly any people in it. Though I did find that it was just overall a really cool mall. And back in its heyday, when it was a successful place, it has clearly been a really nice mall. Even looking back just a few years ago, you can see there were a lot of people here, lots of restaurants trying to make their comeback, including one that you could even see back there a minute ago. It's just a shame every time I see a situation like this where a really nice big mall has come to the end of its time. So that was my look around Regency Square. It was super interesting to get to go in here. I imagine due to the state of disrepair, it's not going to be too much longer until we see this mall shuttered for good. A lot of the storefronts are already closed, and safety concerns leads me to believe that this mall won't be around long. So if you want to check it out, definitely do so. Thanks for watching.